Thank you for bringing me here. For this one, no. This one, no.
So like when they stop warming the
I'd say the longest last year, the lights turn off.
this favour, so you probably want to examine things for 6 hours.
Okay, welcome to SydDT number 103. And tonight,
And design connection.
and there's a ... it's an ellipsis, and it's our number 2 of our Design Connection collaboration, which is the new name for the old Mega Meetup. So it's part of our Mega Meetup series, and we'll talk more about that in a sec. So we're really lucky to have Dan taking photos. That's why he's here. He's come all the way from Hong Kong to take some photos of you, which is pretty awesome. So we're going to hear from Dan on Culture Ops real soon. But to get started, I want a clicker that clicks. There we go. Just want to acknowledge that we're on Gadigal country and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. So, where's Kate? A huge thanks to our sponsors, and somewhere, at some point, Kate will re-emerge and tell us all about Thoughtworks. So hopefully you know you're in Thoughtworks place right now. And when Kate re-emerges, I'll get her to share, coming out of the lift, exactly what Thoughtworks does. In the meantime, let's kick over to Diana and Alan to tell us about Sh8peshifters.
Hi everyone, I'm Diana, this is Alan. We're Sh8peshifters, we're a visual communication design agency in Sydney. We work with teams to help them align and communicate more effectively, and we also do training so that we can help people think more visually and solve problems visually. And we have a meetup as well, a little meetup called Think Visual. It happens every second Wednesday of the month in the morning. So just before work, if you want a little creative inspiration, come to our meetup. The next one is, I think, going to be at KPMG on the 13th of October. And
I think so.
yeah, and the speaker is from Sh8peshifters.
Yeah. I also wanted to highlight a very special thing that we do over here at Sydney Design Thinking. We have Pradeep Gulur over here, a friend of ours.
Woo!
Pradeep is going to live scribe this event. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, Pradeep is actually going to listen to the conversation or listen to what's being said, and in real time he's going to visually synthesize what's going on. Today's is actually is his second go at doing this. Yesterday was his first go, so it is kind of hard. There is a little bit of pressure, but you will be able to see it unfolding. So if you have a look over here,
you'll be fine. There's not much to be said. You get it done in one squiggle.
Exactly. So it should be very simple.
Everyone will be watching Dan, it's fine.
But yeah, so if everyone wants to come up and say hi to Pradeep afterwards, please feel free to.
I was also going to say that we have a few of our regular Think Visual meetup comers here tonight, and they're going to be scribing the crowd as well. So if you can peek over their shoulder and see them scribing. And this is open to anyone who would like to try their hand at this, so feel free to come up and chat to us or Pradeep after this, and we'll set you up with an upcoming Sydney Design Thinking event.
Thanks.
Thanks, Alan and Diana. So yeah, this has been an awesome little collaboration that we started a few months ago now, as a nice, safe environment for some of the Sh8peshifters and the visual design crew, visual storytellers to practice with a live audience. So lots of cheering. Want the cheer squad on. And actually, before I do that, you're back. Kate, come and tell us a tale. What does Thoughtworks do?
So, Thoughtworks, we do custom software, which involves a lot of design, as you could imagine. Thoughtworks is kind of famous for perfecting agile ways of working, and agile works so beautifully with design. You know, iterative design, you're constantly improving, you're learning from your customers. So, yeah, Thoughtworks, we're in loads of countries, I've lost count. Loads of offices, been around for 30 years. That's us.
Awesome. Thank you. And a huge thanks to Thoughtworks for hosting us again. Susan's going to talk about Leapfrog Studios in a moment. And I even said the right name, I think. Winning. And I'm Ben. I never introduced myself, so I'll do that very briefly. I'm from Dynamic 4. We're a leadership design and innovation business and a social enterprise and B Corp. And it's how do we use those things to help create the conditions for happier communities. Any of that sounds interesting? Come and have a yarn. So, not that. SydDT first, because we've got 3 meetups here tonight, so we'll get to all of us. We've got Kate, who's part of the team, Lucas, Kylie. Awesome. So SydDT, our normal rhythm's the second Thursday of the month, and we do fun stuff like this. And hopefully everyone knows that it's Are You OK Day. So a good time to check in on some friends, and Lucas is going to have a couple of things to say about that.
Thanks, mate. I'm okay. I hope so, at least. Anyway. Put your hand up if you've got that voice inside your head that keeps chattering. And let's say you just said to yourself, I don't have a voice inside my head. That's the voice I'm talking about. Now, sometimes that voice is really helpful for us. Sometimes we can use it to G ourselves up and say, I can do this, I can do this. And sometimes we sit there and go, I can do it, no I can't. I can do it, no I can't. You have more than one voice, as someone alluded to. If you were to put that voice into a person and sit next to you, how many of you would look at that person next to you and ask for that person for advice? Personally, I wouldn't, because sometimes you talk yourself out of things too many times, you lose focus. So when you're in a really dark place, and I'll sort of talk about this from experience, I've been in places where I've had to go through some tough things, and really it was people around me that really helped me through that. And that's really what drove me to believe a lot in the sense of community and people helping and supporting people, other people who need it. So when I say I really want to implore people to ask people around them, are you okay? Please go do that, because it helped me when I needed it. So please try and talk to your neighbours, talk to people around you, and just have a chat and be there to listen and just hear what they've got to say and just be there for them. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to solve anything. Sometimes it's just listening, because if they talk to somebody else, often it means they're not talking to that person inside their head. So just a nice little circuit breaker. So are you okay? Please have a chat to your neighbour and have a great evening.
Thanks, mate. Great reminder, and obviously we've got a day of the year for it, but it's something that we need to do all year round. But it's a great reminder now, and thanks for sharing, Lucas. SydDT, a huge thanks to our members. So thank you. As at last night, we're at just over 9,500, so we're on that final countdown to 10K. We're almost there, so bring your friends. If you ended up here for some other reason than SydDT, make sure you join SydDT as well. There's an affiliate link in here somewhere, but yeah, it's awesome. The reason we do this is for the community and being part of the community, so it's with and for. And obviously we love it because we've been doing it for over 9 years and we keep doing it. So thank you, and that's all for you. Now, over to K-Dub and Sylvia. Are you going to come and support Sylvia?
She sure is.
Hi everyone. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Kevin. Sylvia, you coming up? Please come up. Please. I'm part of CCX Sydney. We're actually the young Turk in the group. Like, we've only been going for 4 years, so like, we're the young uns. Yeah, I think we're like 3,000 and something, something like that. Not we're into the numbers, are we, Ben? Lydia sends her apologies. She's stuck in the Blue Mountains, unfortunately. And Ash from Atlassian, our wonderful, amazing sponsor, has been with us for 4 years, so we can't say. If anyone's from Atlassian, anyone from Atlassian tonight? Oh, let's see anyone. No, Sarah's normally here, but she's not here at the moment. And some people in here have worked for Atlassian, so you know who I'm talking about. Yeah, so we are very, very lucky in our next meetup. We're very lucky to be part of this, by the way, sorry. We intentionally didn't have a September edition because we're so close to Ben's meetup anyway. So he's up. Sorry. Ben's I think he's meetup. Sorry. They're on a Thursday, we're on a Tuesday in the same week. It's not good planning, is it? But we're really lucky that in our next meetup we're going to have an amazing friend of ours, Ollie, so Oliver Wedlich. He's going to be really going into a beautiful deep dive into spatial design and augmented realities. And I can guarantee you, if you're into Apple Vision Pro, you're in for a treat, right? So yeah, we're doing that on, what date is that?
Second Tuesday.
8th of October.
8th of October. I'm struggling here.
Look behind you.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking.
Must be your youth.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking. You should have done that. We'd love to see you there, and we've got a November event which we'll talk about later, and it's right behind City Design Thinking as well. So
we're doing another one.
Yeah, we are. Are we doing another mega meetup? Oh, sorry. But it's so bad, isn't it? Yeah. So there is another design connection coming up. Is that right, Susan?
Yes,
yeah.
2 more.
Okay, right. Is it time for Adam? Yeah. Thanks everyone.
CCX. Woo! Pass off. Okay, so follow that, Adam. So we've also got Adam from EUX.
May I
Please
interject briefly?
All yours.
This is really starting to turn into a Monty Python. Our next association.
Where's the dead parrot? I mean the living parrot.
Oh my God.
Adam from EUX.
So what's the wind speed velocity? No, okay, right. So
Get that slide off.
this is me. Okay, so just briefly, EUX Sid, we've got our next meetup next week on the 19th.
Woo!
Woo! I really wasn't prepared for that, Kevin, thank you. And we got Rebecca Murphy, who's she is currently the product design lead at CMC Markets, going to give a really cool talk just about her experience there, so definitely recommend coming along if you can. We've also got an Apple Vision Pro, so if you want to play with it before the meetup, you're more than welcome to come in and play with it. I've only found Fruit Ninja on it so far, but everybody else can have a bit of a play. And just on the Are You OK Day, a lot of people have been asking me if I'm okay recently. I'm not really, but the fact that people have been asking me has been really good. So I think it's a really important thing to do. And as you said, Ben, it should be every day, not just today. But anyway, thank you.
So, one that's not technically part of Design Connection or the Mega Meetup, but a meetup that a bunch of you hopefully will be interested in a couple of weeks' time. Who uses Framer? Any Framer users? A couple of people that are almost confessing. Yep, good. So the official Framer Sydney meetup is going to be happening with that QR code on the 25th, Wednesday the 25th. It'll be across the road at Fishburners. And so if you're into Framer, does everyone know what Framer is as a tool?
Sorry, is it Framer or Farmer?
Hopefully I'm reading it right. Framer wants a Framer. So it is a prototyping, no-code, low-code digital tool. It was around back in the old school days. Haven't actually used it probably for approaching 10 years. But it used to be one of the key prototyping plugins for Sketch back in the day as the prototyping tool before Figma sort of accelerated. So if you're into that side, definitely the UX UI, low code, no code practitioners in the group, worth checking out. And it's developed awesomely over the years as well, I believe. I haven't actually used it for a while. So in terms of SydDTs coming up, a quick run sheet going through until February. So I'll work backwards because we're going to kick off 2025 with Alan and Diana doing a visual, what are we calling it?
Workshop. Visual learning
workshop. There we go. We've got a visual learning workshop, so it'll be more of a workshop format to kick off 2025, and that will be here at this stage. Yep, good. Phew. So, so that will be an awesome way to start the year. Next month, on the 10th of October, we're talking about inclusive design, and that one's going to be hosted at Atlassian. Who's going to South by Southwest Sydney? Any hands? One hand. So if you haven't got your ticket yet, I've got a promo code for 10% off, so hit me up for that. I can't put it in the public domain, but I can do it on private channels. So let me know about that. The good news is I've managed to negotiate a venue where our SydDT meetup at South by will actually be in the public space where you don't need a pass to come to now. So originally you're going to need a pass. So it's on a Monday arvo. So sneak out of work, 3:15, middle of Tumberland Park. There's a space to get drinks nearby, and it'll just be a casual yarn. We're not going to do any content or anything. I think I heard a volunteer to be on stage playing. Is that what I heard, Ian? Stand up? That sounds like a really bad duo. Or trio, because it was plural there. And then Crothers. Where are you? Ben. There he is.
There I am.
Ben's going to be doing, with Rach Zhang, the annual tradition that we have at SydDT. We're going to do this one as a Design Connection Mega Meetup as well. Our annual State of the Design Nation chat. So Ben and Rach, both judges on this year and many previous years, or Ben has been, Good Design Awards. And so it's highlights from this year's, key observations, trends, patterns. Anything else you want to add to that?
Oh, sparkling, insightful chat.
Sparkling, insightful chat. Did ChatGPT write that for you? It's always a crowd favourite, always plenty of insight and gold in that. So Macquarie Group is going to be hosting that one in their brand new space at Elizabeth Street, and they're expecting about 100 internal people, and we've got a cap of 300. So there's going to be plenty of space. It'll be a free one. So come along to that one because Ben and Rach are speaking, but then it'll be an awesome spot in their new space. Have you been to new space, Jake?
I have.
Yeah, it's nice. Say again?
What day is that?
It's Wednesday the 6th of November. So it's a off-cycle one. It's probably the first one we've ever done on a Wednesday, and it's the first Wednesday of the month. And then we're going to wrap up the year as another Design Connection Mega Meetup that Atlassian's hosting, and that one will be some very, very light content, just enough to reflect and celebrate all the goodness that 24 has been, but mostly it's our annual end of year get together. So that's some stuff coming up. To get in on the action for next month, hit that QR code. We've got Manisha, Shaheen and Marianne talking about inclusive design. It's going to be awesome. So come.
That's Atlassian, is it?
That'll be at Atlassian, at the new one on George, 363 George, I think it is, opposite the Fullerton.
363, I think it is.
Yeah. All right, now I'm going to hand over to Susan. What is Leapfrog Studios, and who is Dan?
Okay.
Thanks, Susan.
All right. So you may have noticed a few frogs lying around. Everybody have a frog? If you haven't gotten a frog, grab some.
They tasted horrible.
That was the problem. You know, I ordered the pizzas, I ordered the booze, and a chocolate covered frog. Oh, those were chocolate covered. Yeah, most of you know me from all kinds of things. Just because I've been organizing this and I haven't had a chance to share a little bit about this, I just wanted to let you know about another initiative that I'm very much involved with, because I'm running it, because I started it. It's this idea of Leapfrog Studio, and what Leapfrog Studio is all about is about bridging the problem with the fact that we have a lot of social enterprises that need UX services but can't afford our services. We also have a lot of people, particularly who are moving into the field in particular, right? And again, I was personally responsible for a lot of these people moving into the field. And finding it kind of hard to get work in this culture. There's a segue. Culture, environment, all of these things. Anyway, what Leapfrog Studio does is bridge that gap. So what we do is we provide low bono consulting to social enterprises. So it's a win-win for emerging designers as well as the social enterprises. So that's what we do. We have a number of frogs in the audience. We have, in fact, the person who made most of these frogs, my frog, if you grabbed one of the frogs that doesn't jump, that was one of mine. If you grab one of the frogs that does jump, that was probably, comes from Berta, who's somewhere here, there she is. Grab a frog. Anyway, it's just, if you know of any social enterprises, I'd be keen to talk to you. If you know of any emerging designers who'd like to come and join our merry band of frogs, come and talk to us as well. So that's what Leapfrog Studio is all about. That's what I've been doing recently. The other thing I've been doing recently, and the thing that really brings me here tonight, apart from the fact that I'd be here anyway because I've come to all these things, is to introduce the guy who's carrying all kinds of weird stuff in his arms right now. I have no idea why he's doing that, but I wanted to introduce you to someone who I have known since probably my first, well, definitely too many years ago, when I first landed in Australia. And I was doing work at this organization called Telecom Australia. Telecom. It was before Telstra. For those of you who remember that it wasn't called Telstra forever. Sort of, yeah. And so I've worked with Dan since back then, when we were both working in the usability space. And Dano has had an illustrious career in that space, doing fabulous things both here in Australia and for the past 25 years in Hong Kong. He's been doing great things. If you've ever had the opportunity to hear about or even have the pleasure of going to UX Hong It was a great run for, what, a decade? And what he and his wife Jo have been doing for the past 10 years is something that's near and dear to my heart, and something that I've had the pleasure of being involved with. And it's this whole idea of how can we do things a little bit more meaningfully. And so he's going to be talking tonight about sort of his journey on making meaningful work, and now how that is morphed into thinking about the cultures that we build in our organizations. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dano, and I'm going to let him share some stories, and then we're going to have some conversation. And I don't know what he's doing with that unicorn. We'll have to find
out. Looks good on you, James.
Interactive thing.
Not answering.
Hi, darling.
Hey.
Hey, how are you? I'd like to introduce you to some friends. You ready? Yeah, I'm gonna go around. I'm going around one more time. You ready? Everybody, you ready, Joe? Everybody, could you just say everybody? Just say one big get stuffed. 1, 2, 3. Get stuffed, Joe. Okay, now there you go, darling. Now we're officially in Australia. You well?
Put a rubbish out.
Say again?
You forgot to put a rubbish out.
Yeah, of course it's a surprise. All right, that's enough. I'll chat to you later. Get stuffed. I just thought of bringing her in then because she's been a big part of this. Made Meaningful Work. That's the lady on the front cover of the book, Jo Wong, and yeah, she's been a big part of the last 25 years. Blah 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 blah. All right. Oh, yeah. You ready? Yep. Okay. Right and left.
Should be.
Culture ops.
Is that like joining a London?
Take a moment and think about, just on your own, no discussion, just take a moment to think about, I'm not looking for an academic definition of culture, but just take it, I like the swivel, this is good. Take a moment just to think about what does culture, not like culture by country or culture by city or culture by family or culture by nationality, what does culture, organisational culture, mean to you? Go. And you can talk to someone about it next to you or just have a think. Okay? And while you're thinking about that, Jake is going to sing a solo from Barry Manilow's album. Yeah, just have a. You can chat to people about it. What is culture? What is culture?
You can't think about it. Talk that voice in the head.
Yeah, talk to that voice in the head. The multiple voices. Okay, one more minute. Okay, time. Okay, let's do this chat show style. Anybody, what does culture mean to you? Put your hand up, please. Great. Really. Oh, here we go. Come up the front. What's your name? Ian, everybody, I'd like everyone to meet. This is Dave Letterman. Come on up, Dave. Ian. Ian, come over here.
And you get a chance, right?
Ian, what is the definition of culture? What does culture mean to you?
Thank you. Workplace culture, to me, it's the way we do things around here, particularly when nobody's looking.
That's good.
Anybody else? What does culture mean? I saw other hands. Yes. What does culture mean to you?
For me, it's a shared sense of meaning. So think about meaning we make as individuals. For me, it's a collective meaning that we all share somehow. Sometimes we do it knowingly, intentionally, and sometimes we do it unintentionally. So think about blame culture where, oh, I protect myself, I'm going to start blaming somebody else.
Tell us a little bit more. Just by the way, this is a tip: when you get invited to present, you get other people. You just walk off and eat the pizza. Tell us a little bit about the. Tell us a little bit more about the unintentional part. That's interesting.
I always use the example of, and it's a fake science experiment that I don't think ever happened, but it's the monkey that had to climb the ladder, and they hosed down the monkey, and when they try to get the banana, there's a banana at the top of the ladder or something like that. And then they take the monkeys out and they introduce new monkeys, and over time, the only monkeys in the room were never there when the first hosing down ever happened. So eventually they start learning these practices to pull the other monkeys down. No, I don't want to do this because I don't want to get hosed by the fire hose or whatever it is. And it's these things that you build up over time that you don't know why they exist. And they just become behaviours and you don't really understand why. And that's sort of
the implicit
nature,
the intrinsic or implicit nature.
Yeah, which is that's the unknown. Like, we've done this because there might have been some leader that behaved in a certain way and it's just been ingrained in the way we work. Or there might be something that's triggered a way of working and we interact this way. Which is why it's hard for me, I think, to design culture intentionally.
It's hard.
Because you've got to undo what's been done before and you don't know how the hell it got there.
And good night, everyone. Thank you very much. That was excellent.
A bit philosophical.
That's great. We'll do one more. Yes.
The microphone's yours.
Hi everyone. I work at CBA. I've been there 6 months, and I was in an Are You OK session this morning with a guy who would call himself a lifer. You know, he's been at CBA 25 years plus. And I'd say that our culture is somewhere where somebody like me, who's been there for 6 months, can talk to someone there who's been for 25 years and have an instant rapport. So I kind of think that really says a lot about the culture at CBA.
So rapport.
Rapport and, you know, kind of inclusion, like, and all of the above.
Have a book, mate.
Thanks, mate.
No worries, mate. All right, so you might be thinking to yourself, or maybe you're not, what is Jo, who you've just met, and Dan's definition of culture? So this actually comes from my beautiful wife, Josephine. Jo defines culture as, pens ready? Yeah. Okay. Because she's very smart. Jo defines culture as the interactions and relationships and conduct in moments that matter. I'll repeat it. It's a very simple definition, but it's quite delightful. The interactions and relationships and conduct between people in moments that matter. And we thought long and hard about that definition, but that's our definition. So why that definition? It's just a definition, right? It's been really interesting to watch people come in to the room tonight, and I'm looking around the room, I see a lot of lovely familiar faces. We've just met for the first time in person, but we've had plenty of Zoom calls. Susan I've known for a long time, Jake I've known for a long time, Julie I've known for a long time. The thing about culture is the minute one person walks into this room, it's already a culture of one. Whether it's acknowledged or not, whether it's explicit in terms of a tree where the branches of culture around what we call in Make Meaningful Work, character, leadership and culture above the soil, that's explicit, that's visible, that can be seen, or whether it's, more interestingly, implicit and non-visible, culture exists. And let's just entertain me and let's just accept that as a hypothesis. The minute a couple more people enter the room, well, now you've got more than a culture of one. You've got a culture of 2 or 3, and then more people come into the room. Some people don't talk to anyone. Some people grab a drink, relax in the corner. Some people just hoe into the pizza. Some people meet up with other people and have conversations. And what's interesting about this group, and it's, as much as I made a joke before about the introductions, what's quite stunning about this group, and it's very rare, is that you've got multiple groups, and credit to the community leaders who have brought this together. It's very, very rare. And so what you have is, you have a multiple communities of practice coming together, and the intersections between those communities become very interesting in the interactions and relationships and conduct between people in moments that matter. And this collectively, if we look at culture across the me, us and the we, or we could say the individual, the team and the organisation, this is an intersecting community of practice of cultures. Now, some might walk into this culture, we could invite someone in and walk in, might not be the right fit for them. Something's going on implicitly or explicitly. And there's other people that would walk in to here and just feel immediately at home, which is interesting. But the thing about culture, it's always there, but our hypothesis is, and hence culture ops, for lack of a better naming of it, unless you make it explicit to people, explicit and sharp and well understood through what we call conduct, measured by Sparkle, S-P-A-R-K-L-E, as a baseline measure, so naturally you're thinking, what is Sparkle? Supportive, proactive, adaptable, responsible, kind, listening, engage. Just entertain me with that as a starting baseline. Equal to people interacting and relating in moments that matter, that looks healthy, unless that is made explicit. Culture is abstract, and basically we're just throwing darts at a wall every day randomly with an assumption that culture will be understood. Now, let's take it a little bit further. If culture, part of culture and organisational culture, is represented by words, so what are those words? Usual suspects. A vision. Ooh, we have a vision. A mission or a vision. Values, oh, there's another good one, right? Jake, you mentioned a few others. Values, what? No. No, you did, that's right, I'm forgetting.
Be careful.
Yeah. Right? Words. But how do we turn the words into action? And we call that in culture ops, we call that the gap. And I would posit that for a lot of you in your various workplaces, that gap exists now. Now, there lends a question, do we wish to take responsibility to reduce that gap and make the culture less abstract and more clear and well understood, not through just words, but through action? It's a very important part of this framework. Yeah, the values say we're polite, the values say we're thankful, but in our conduct, are we? Is that well understood? Is that well practiced? Is that actually seen in the day-to-day embodiment of the conduct equal to the culture? That's the gap. Any questions? Any thoughts? Yes?
Could you please repeat Sparkle?
Sure. Sparkle, S-P-A-R-K-L-E, which is on the front cover of this book. I'll get that back from you later. Supportive, proactive, adaptable, responsible, kind, listening, and engaged. And you know what? There's generous amounts of it in this room. because of the nature of people that come to these types of community events, it's omnipresent in design communities, UX communities, or whatever we decide to call it tomorrow, right? But think of Sparkle, thank you for asking, I'm repeating, think of Sparkle as a baseline equal to what a healthy culture should look like, but I'm not necessarily saying it's a baseline, but that would need to be customised according to the various, because there's lots of different organisations in this room, so that would need to be personalised and customised. Okay. Third point. What does it feel like? What does it feel like when you are in a culture where you feel you're not aligned to that culture? You feel out of place, you feel it's disconnected, you're feeling some sort of emotion equal to that lack of alignment. Take a minute or two so I can grab a water and just tell me, just think about what does that we'll start with misalignment that can lead to sleepwalking. What does that feel like? Everyone good?
Yes.
Go!
It feels yucky, doesn't it? When your own personal values go like how they change, how they evolve. Yeah, like you're always sort of fighting some sort of like
Okay, time. Anybody? Hands up. Anybody? What does it feel like when a culture feels misaligned? Which basically means culture is made up of people, time and place. Culture is the interactions and relationships and conduct between people in moments that matter. So implicitly and or explicitly, what does it feel like when we don't feel aligned? Anybody? Yes.
So like you do your part, I do my part,
Yes.
and we meet up again with problem occurs again. So that's what.
So is that about, so the word parts?
We like, so communication didn't work at all.
Ah.
So we just came back to our spots when I
Yes.
do your own stuff. And
Yes.
then we meet up again when the problem happens.
Yes, which can work in a culture if that relationship is not necessarily needed to make the whole work. Sometimes that can work, sometimes it doesn't work. So that's a good one. Jake?
feels like you've got a stone in your shoe.
So that?
It feels like you've got a stone in your shoe.
Yes.
Right, so you can kind of still walk around, you can do things, but this is something that's just niggling at you the whole time, and it's uncomfortable, and it's not very nice.
It's like having Mick Jagger in your shoe, mate. Stone. There was someone at the back. Yes. I'll give you the mic. Yeah.
I was gonna say one word. It feels like bad thing, but no, like to say more a little bit. I think it's like, is it? Oh, okay. So like disconnect for me, it's not just a stone in my shoe that I can walk with. It's actually like questioning, shall I even walk? Completely like it could completely disconnect, like cease activity.
You know, people don't mind if you clap One more? It just has to be on the other side. Is there one more here? No? Oh, for God's sake. Honestly. It's okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say it feels disingenuous and inauthentic, like you're almost lying to yourself that you want to be there.
Yes. Yes.
Because of misalignment, yeah.
Nice one. One more?
Down the back.
Okay, let's go for 2 more. This is interesting.
Thank you. For me, misalignment in culture could also be a strong indication of a very exclusionary culture, and especially if it holds a sense of expectations for an individual to comply to. And if you're feeling like that there's that false expectation, you sort of have to question if it's worth pursuing such a relationship or such a culture if they hold such exclusionary views in a way. So it's rather, because I feel like when it comes to misalignment, people think of it as an individualistic problem that you need to overcome, but sometimes it's an indicator of a more systemic problem.
Paradoxically conflicting. You want to be there and you don't want to be there at the same time.
That would be a great Stanley Kubrick film. Paradoxically conflicting. Have you seen that film recently? It's great.
He's not going to make it.
He's not. I don't think he can. It's like those chocolate frogs.
More interesting.
In my opinion, it's a killer of creativity and productivity.
Taxi!
No, you need to clap Jake. Jake didn't get a clap.
Jake didn't get a clap.
What's going on with the culture?
Okay, so here's the thing about the question. We know what it feels like when the culture is not aligned. So here's the second question. What do you do about it? It depends, right? On many, many factors. It could depend on the team you're in. It could depend on the boss that you're working for or with. It could depend on the pre-existing culture when you came in. It could depend on the recruitment process or what you felt, or does it feel aligned to the interview? I mean, there's so many factors, but more often than not in our research, I just like to say our research to sound impressive, but what we've observed in what we've studied, in what we've read and what we've studied to inform culture ops, starting with Make Meaningful Work and now culture ops, is more often than not, and it's a general observation, more often than not people will say, I can't do anything about it, it's got nothing to do with me, it's the CEO's problem, it's the senior leadership's problem, it's people operations, it's the culture team, yeah, it's got nothing to do with me. I have my job function, I have my role, I don't have any remit or responsibility equal to culture. So part of the hypothesis says that actually what we're trying to do with culture ops is to create a greater distribution amongst more people to say everybody can do something equal to culture. Leads the next question, how do we do that? Practically. Now I need to call Jo again, because she's the practical one. How do we do that practically? The way that we do that, without getting too deep into methodology or tools, is we do that by simply practicing, and I'll say this slowly so you can all write this down, how we can individually, the me, and or the we, the us, the team, or the we organisationally, how can we insert meaning into moments that matter? I'll repeat it, because that's the core of culture ops. That's the heart of it. It took us a long time to come up with that, but it's simply how can the individual, the team, and the organisation insert meaning into moments that matter? Okay, so what's meaning? It's not like meaning, meaning. I mean, That's interesting. We can have conversations about that. It's meaning equal to the practicality of how I'm conducting myself in the moment that matters, that is explicit by nature. Right? And what is the conduct? Well, we've already got the beginnings of the conduct, and the conduct is the measure of sparkle, because each of those represent the beginnings of conduct. How can I be more supportive? How could I be more proactive? And okay. So some of you might be thinking, what are moments that matter? Well, here's the interesting thing, and I would be 110% confident about this, about everyone in the room. You'll all have slightly different moments that matter equal to your workplaces. But you know what? That's what makes it awesome. Because, hey, here's the CEO, just as an example. Hey, we should be more like Apple. Apple's Apple. Why would we want to be Apple? And we have no idea how Apple created their culture. We have no idea what moments that matter to Apple. We don't have any real idea on how they conduct themselves. We don't even have any idea how they measure that. Why would we want to be Apple? We should be more like Google. We should be more like Amazon. God forbid. But the point is, in culture ops, what we've said is we start effectively with a blank canvas for everyone. And when we go in, and we get to understand people, and it starts with an individual or a team or an organisation, whether it's a functional team, because a design team might have its own culture, and there might be subcultures within that culture, and subcultures within that culture, but then there'll be a culture within the engineering, and a culture in marketing, and a culture in finance, a culture in legal, a culture with the C-suite. All of that is very interesting, but it's all very abstract, until we can define both the meaning equal to the conduct, and B, the moments that matter that represent that conduct. So you can see, as much as I'm clowning around with soft toys and having fun, I am intentional. I'm not saying I've orchestrated this or scripted everything in my head prior to meeting you all, but I'm constantly practicing the notion of being intentional. Okay, Dan, what do you need to do? You have to get the audience to warm to you. How are you going to do that equal to your conduct? What are the moments that matter equal to this presentation? What does that look and feel like? I mean, I'm not saying I've mapped it all out, but it has intention. So we can't hope to have a healthy culture by simply hoping we can have a healthy culture without the intention. Okay. So, what I would like you to do, or what Susan, Julie, Jules, and Jake, come on up, everybody. Jules, Jake, this is your grab a chair. I'm telling you, it's the easiest hack in the world. You get invited to present, make it 90% about other people. And everyone goes, that was a great talk. That was incredible. He was so smart. Okay. Susan, Jules, Julie, and Jake. Susan and myself are the only ones that don't have a name that begins with J. They're going to share with you an example from their perspective of a moment that matters. So Susan doesn't fall off her chair. Before we do that, what we'd like you to do first is we'd like you to think about a moment that matters to you. Now, it can come from life, family, life, friends, but if you don't mind, my preference, again, entertain me, my preference would be if you can think about it in a work context. Now, it could be a current work context, could have been today. It could be from a month ago, it could be from a job you had 3 years ago. But I really want you to think carefully about a moment that matters, that has the attributes of something that's very meaningful and important to you, where you say to yourself, geez, if I would just insert some conduct here equal to some sort of measurable outcome by Sparkle, if I was more intentional, I might be able to work towards influencing the culture. Right? So take a few minutes and just think about, just start with one, what is the moment that matters to you? And then by osmosis, you'll start to think of a story, you'll start to think of people in that moment that matters, you'll start to think, oh, that's interesting, the inside voice. You'll start to be thinking, oh, how does that relate to my values? Why did that upset me? What was the problem that I was facing? And so on. So it'll just come naturally. We good? Go. Okay, thank you very much. We have 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Yeah? Before we have to finish. No. 15 minutes. Okay, time. So, we're going to go with 3 responses from the audience. 3. Moment that matters, an associated problem or opportunity in that moment that matters. Just keep it brief. What you should be feeling is you're probably saying, geez, I wish I had longer. That's a good feeling to have. But because we're on less time, just keep it brief. Anyone? Yes? Your name?
Ahmed.
Ahmed. Everybody Ahmed?
Thank you. I'm just a junior, but I just finished my degree, but I was working for the university for the last couple of years, and every time we finish a cycle, everyone gets together and we sit down and we say, okay, what did we do well? What can we do better next time? And then, okay, that's great. And then we all go off, and then we have the same conversation again. And I think the moment that matters is not at the end and the start of the cycle when we're thinking about those things, but halfway through the project. Are we doing the things that we said we're going to do better? And it's that you know, because it's not a conversation you have at the start and the end, it's the conversation you keep happening throughout the whole project.
That's great.
You do get a free book. I personally really like that one because it speaks to the heart of culture ops, which is about, it's not just about the words, it's about, are we taking responsibility for the action? In our methodology, we have something called a moments map. Yes, another map. But where people can see the moments that matter, the aggregated and stronger moments that matter with a related conduct card that can be measured by Sparkle. And for that to be real, people actually have to commit to that moment that matters. And there should be it works really well if there's then a connection to, you don't need many moments that matter, but there needs to be a very strong connection and or correlation or relationship to some point in a process. The issue often is we're hyper-focused on the process and the outputs and the deliverables and all the stuff that supports that. We're not as focused as we should be on the softer elements that are happening in and around the process. Not the hard skills, but the softer skills, the conduct in and around the process that actually shapes the culture in situ. So that's the idea of making it clear. Thank you. Two more.
At the back.
It's always down the back. Hello.
Hi, I'm a junior myself and I recently have in-house experience and I recently started my internship. And as exciting as it is, like on a similar path, I always go to work being my best, open to learning, and given all this good feedback from my colleagues, it's very uplifting. But I always ask at the end of the week, like, what matters to me is like, what can I do better to improve? What can I do better to enhance my work? Because where can I see myself in 5 years? And like, since I'm in a period of my life where I'm slowly getting my foot in the door with full-time work, contract work, it gets me thinking like, what's next for me after this internship? What can I do? A thing I've learned is to stop and smell the roses and live in the moment.
The key word there, key word from my perspective, do. And it's nice to have, it's nice, it's funny how you describe yourself. I get it, you describe yourself as juniors. But yeah, I think if you're earlier in your career, to have people help shape, because we're talking about culture ops tonight, help shape those moments that matter, and then determine, in terms of the do, determine the strength of that action as connected to the moment that matters, and then you'll feel more committed to it, equal to shaping the culture. Hi.
Well, is everyone well?
Is everyone well?
Hey! So I might disrupt the boat a little bit.
Come and rock the boat.
But if I may rock the boat,
Of course you can.
I'm coming up now.
Yeah, you're coming up.
So
Come and rock the boat.
there's the illusion of good.
Wait, I'll give you the microphone.
There
Before you rock the boat, have a
Can you
seat.
hear me back there?
I'm giving you the microphone.
Can we hear ourselves back there? Alright, so there's good corporate culture, and then there's kind of bullshit corporate culture, and this I'm going to ask you and everyone else. There is pretending to give a fuck, and especially with Are You OK Day. I guarantee you, if you were to open your email box anywhere right now where you work with, you're going to have an Are You OK Day from someone up there, and everyone's like, yeah, sweet, we sent Are You OK Day. No one killed himself, yep, sweet. No one assaulted himself, yeah, sweet, yeah, cool. But realistically, it can be a wank. So, like, what's the story? Like, where do we draw the line? And if I'm going to play devil's advocate, if I may, I suppose I am right now. Having said that, like, where do we lie? Like, right now we're talking to positive, but we need to be realistic at the same time. So, I know my question is like, I'm not trying to like fuck with the presentation at all. I think it's very good, but at the same time, I'm saying like the amount of like bullshit LinkedIn wank off posts, the amount of like this, that, and the other. Like there is a lot of wank around this. Are you okay? This, that, the other. But it'll pass with this. Next week it'll be LGBT. The week after it'll be purple flag. The next week after it'll be immigration. The next week after it'll be, I don't know, man.
It'll be Christmas by then.
It'll be Christmas by then, and it goes through, and it's people pretending to give a fuck. So, right, after we finish with this, how do people actually pretend to not give a fuck and do something actually about it? How do you quantify, I'll ask you, bulk question, but how would you quantify your achievements or your ask tonight? What is success for you? What is success for everyone on this table? And how are we going to measure it? Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to fill my wine on here.
Yeah, fill your wine up. I've only got one question for you.
Go on. I'll stay here
It's
and
okay.
answer.
It's all right. No, it's only one question. I didn't say I've got 10. The one question would be, how is that rocking the boat? So no, don't answer it. Because I think everything you said is spot on. So, you and my wife need to meet. She'll love you. Yeah, no.
It's a bold statement.
No. What I mean by that is, what I mean by that, and then I'd like to hear from Susan, Jules, Julie, and Jake. What I mean by that is, interestingly, everything that you've shared is fundamental to why we created Culture Ops. Everything that you said. Because I agree with you. I actually agree with you. So much of culture, the words, the lingo, the various days, so much of that is bullshit.
It fucking is.
Yeah, I know. I'm agreeing. No argument. So what we said is we said, well, if a lot of it is words, fluff, doesn't actually land anywhere, doesn't have meaning, that's precisely why we came up with Culture Ops. Because if you want to move something from words to action, like, oh, I'm so nice and I'm very thankful, but actually in our conduct, it doesn't play out that way, it is bullshit. So I agree with everything that you've said. Big round of applause. Now the measurement part, to answer that briefly, the measurement part is we thought long and hard about what could be a starting measure. The starting measure that we have is Sparkle. Now it does sound a bit Disney, I think. Ooh, Sparkle. Ooh. But we've got to start with some sort of baseline equal to what a healthy conduct and culture looks like. But if we are going to measure it by Sparkle, supportive, proactive, adaptable, responsible, kind, and listening, I always stumble on the R because it used to be respectful, but we changed it to responsible. And we made that change because if we are committed to the moment that matters, and it might just start, if we were an organisation, just started with one moment. But the question is, are we committed to that one moment and the associated action and the associated sparkle? We've got the beginnings of a healthier culture. Less, right?
Exactly, indeed.
That's it. Very good, thank you. Now,
can I get back there, or you want me?
No, that's as you wish. Want to sit on my
I
knee?
enjoy chilling here. If you're going to find me any questions, I'm definitely on the front panel.
You got it. So, all good. So I'm going to introduce these lovely people here, and they're going to share from their experience just a little story, a little vignette, a little insight to moments that matter to them. And then I've got a couple of other things real quick, and then we'll close, Ben, I promise. Jake. Everyone, Jake.
Everyone. So I started talking to Dan about, a few months ago regarding this thing called
culture ops. I don't even think it was called culture ops at the time. But we were talking about, what are the moments that matters, and it took me a while to get my head around, what is he on about? Like, what? I don't understand this. But then once it clicked, it really clicked. So there's lots of moments in our day-to-day work that you can clearly see you can make a major difference. Like the weekly check-ins with the team when you go around the table and you ask, how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10, and give people the opportunity to talk about
do something,
how they are, right? But there's other sorts of moments that matter within design specifically that are absolutely critical to those moments that matter, such as design critique sessions, where you've got stakeholders critiquing the work, and perhaps they're telling you to change something that you felt very passionately about. Like that is a moment that matters, and the way that we conduct ourselves in those moments really matters as well. There's another moment, right, where perhaps the design team has all got together, we've debated the pros and cons of a certain approach and how scalable a particular solution might be, and is it best for this particular solution. We all align on something, and then you show a stakeholder and they say, no, I don't like it, change it to this, right? And how we react in these moments, that's what actually builds the culture and the expectation of how we collaborate as a team cross-functionally moving forward. And I see people, including myself at times, get hugely frustrated in those moments, and you get really defensive, and then you try and blame someone else for, the decisions that were made or whatever. And that's a sign of really toxic cultures. And so, working with Dan over the last few months, I've been able to take an approach which actually helps me identify these moments when they occur.
Make them more explicit.
And make them explicit. That's right. So
because they're happening anyway.
They are happening anyway. And now, when I see one of these moments and they play out and they're negative moments, I've either already thought about it because it's happened before and I've explicitly used this framework to go, ha ha, I have a little recipe here for how I should react in this situation.
So there's a sense of being prepared.
Prepared, yes. Or it's a new moment that I was totally unprepared for, but at least at the front of my brain I've gone, I need to reflect on this afterwards and then work out how I respond next time this happens. And just that's just scratching the surface of what we're talking about with culture ops here. There's a lot more depth to that, but just that I found hugely, hugely beneficial in my day-to-day work.
Thanks, Jane.
I'm going to take this in a little bit different direction. Who here has worked at a company and experienced, whether you were impacted directly or not, a redundancy? Raise your hand. Okay. Now raise your hand if you think it was done well.
No.
Very few, okay? And who would say that's a moment that matters?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Company A is planning a redundancy. They don't talk to their managers to find out who are the people that need to go or need to stay, so the wrong people are let go. They've kept this in secret, so it's sprung upon people in the last minute, and everybody's scrambling, and the people who are left are wondering, what? Am I going to be next? What's going to happen? And what does that do to culture? Okay? Company B, tears it apart. Company B is very open with their employees. They call a company meeting. They say, we're really struggling, and we want to be upfront with you and let you know that we can't make payroll in a certain number of months. So we're going to have to let some of you go, and we're going to do as well as we can for all of you and help you find new jobs. And guess what? The employees come back and say, we will take a reduction in our pay so that we can all stay. Yeah, how do people feel after that? So Same situation, handled very differently in that moment that matters, and that moment lasts in terms of how the employees feel about the company and the culture going forward.
A point is this, and repeating briefly, culture already exists, whether it's intentional or unintentional. So wouldn't it feel just a little bit better if we could think about more explicitly our conduct in a moment that matters to us, and then to have some effect in that? I think that feels better than doing nothing or feeling defensive in it or feeling a victim in it. A lot of people feel a victim in it, and that doesn't necessarily scale very well. Jules.
Good evening, everyone. Mine's a little bit different. Mine is a specific example. So I work in an organisation where we have cross-functional teams. The teams work on their own part of the product, and then once a month, each team will kind of have a session with their exec sponsor to play back the work they've done in the past month. Actually, I think this is one of your examples. My manager, in one of my one-to-ones with him, he called me in. He said, "I have an issue with one of your designers. They're not going fast enough. Their designs are only incrementally different, and they're very slow to produce them." So I was like, "Oh, that's not a good thing." I can see a few nods. I can see a few people in my opinion. The old, why does design take so long? Why does discovery take so long? So I went back and I had a chat with their designer to get her version, their version. And it turns out, obviously, as we all know, there's a lot more to producing designs than simply whacking up a wireframe in Figma. There were issues with data. There were issues with engineering about what is possible, what data we do have, what data we don't have, what data do we need, etc. My manager, the exec, had only seen one facet of the work, and I had a session with him. I played back and I said, "Were you aware that all this work happened without you seeing it?" He was like, "No, I wasn't." So then we began the process of the coaching and how to kind of frame his inquiries in the form of questions. And also, I did have to ask, why did you ask me? The designer is very capable. Why could you not ask the designer themselves? And of course, I worked with the designer also to help them make the non-visual parts of their work more evident in how they talk to the exec. And we're kind of building a better culture in that moment, because now the exec feels that the door's been opened and he doesn't have to hide or shade his awkward questions. He can challenge directly. And the designer is quite accommodating. Right? They appreciate the honesty, and they appreciate the opportunity to walk somebody who's not from their world through their process and explain all the issues that we have with our various backends and data systems and pipelines to help shed a bit of light also on the wider issue. So, started in a negative. That moment was multiple months ago, and now the relationship between the exec and that particular squad is much better.
Okay, and I'll be really quick. How many of you have applied for a job recently? How many of you, when you sent the application in, didn't hear anything back? How many of you wish that they were responsive? Yeah, that's all I want to say. Is there any pizza left? This is relevant. Is there any pizza left? A little bit? No. Okay. A little bit. Okay, and the reason this is relevant is yesterday when I went to order the pizza, and I put in a big order for the pizza. Obviously, I ordered just enough. And 2 minutes later, I actually got an email back from Italy saying, "Thank you, we received your order." Didn't that make me feel great? How many of you had a drink tonight? I ordered the booze. The booze didn't come on time. Oh, no. You know, you can't order this much booze after 6 o'clock because it's too much. So I called this morning and I was on hold literally, while I was being with you, I was on hold for like a half an hour while I tried to figure out how to take my credit card. They said it was supposed to be here by 2. It wasn't. Kate and I were downstairs fighting with trying to get the guy into the door because he would get a parking ticket if he tried to go out front. Anyway, long story short, they were totally not responsive. This is a huge problem that I think we need to work with, and I think it's something that as individuals we ought to be practicing. Because we're all guilty of not necessarily responding when we should, and it's something for us to be thinking about. That's all I want to say.
Stay there. So, to conclude, Ben's like, no.
You're on fire, mate. You're doing well.
We've spoken a lot about conduct. We've spoken a lot about moments that matter. We've spoken a lot about sparkle. We've spoken a lot about the insert meaning into. We've spoken about words to action. We've spoken about the gap. We've spoken about all the way back to the beginning. What is culture? The interactions and relationships between people in moments that matter. So what we've done in the book is we've come up with a starter list of what we believe to be 10 key conduct outcomes. And I'm quite confident in this room a lot of these will resonate with you, but here's the thing. Here's the actual key point. We happen to be with a, generically speaking, a design community of practice, but I can promise you if we had engineers here, marketing people, finance, content, I mean, if we had every single function in this room, they would look at exactly the same conduct outcomes and be able to recognise something in culture equal to moments that matter that are happening at work. So, here's the call to action. The call to action is, what's our role? What's our role in this? So I'm chatting quite a lot with Susan and Jules and Julie and Jake. I'm getting mixed up with all the J's. And Jo, the lovely Jo, in the idea of coming up with a community of practice, but the counterintuitive thing perhaps for some of you, at least some of you in the room, is that it won't be design-led. I think design has a role to play in culture ops, but it's not design-centric, or nor is it design-led. However, on the flip side of that, there's an opportunity within this community of practice, like there would be an opportunity if I'm speaking to an engineering community of practice, or a product management community of practice, or project management, or product management, it doesn't matter. Within this community of practice, I think there's an opportunity for us to look at what could be the frameworks and the associated tools that we could develop together to have more impact on culture as it relates to character, leadership, and culture. Not as a design-led thing, but as a practice that we could be influencing more, and obviously in connection to, if I may, culture ops. I think that's a great opportunity for us to mature together, to evolve, to keep learning, to not necessarily always frame things as only through the perspective or lens of design. Because then what we're doing is we're doing what all the other disciplines bloody well do. And they're doing it from their point of view. We have a great opportunity because of who we are and how we operate in the world to be better facilitators of these types of cross and interdisciplinary discussions equal to what is a great culture.
And therefore, make work more meaningful.
Make meaningful work, make work more meaningful. Now, last exercise. We're going to launch our book soon, and Jo will kill me if I don't do this. She'll literally kill me. Put up your hand, front cover of the book. I'm not saying it's going to be this. Put up your hand if you like this design. Okay? Put up your hand if you like this design. Put up your hand if you like this design. All right, this appears to be, one more time, this one? Okay, it's the
Dan,
Yes,
that right-hand design is like 4 corners.
the right hand,
Yeah.
this one. Oh, the show, great show.
Yeah, but you might have copyright.
Oh, okay, yeah, not in Asia. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Sorry, can I ask you a question?
Hang on a minute.
We have to get out of here.
We've got a call from a viewer from home.
We have to get.
Yeah, go ahead.
And like before you've shared them with everyone else,
Yeah.
and you've asked for feedback,
Yes.
there's got to be some rationale around why design editing.
Oh, there is.
So culture ops one, and we see like obviously looking at fix and plot,
Mm.
seeing something like in and out, right? With
Yes.
one revision, and then the second one, everything points out, and the third one is a bit more abstract, but like, what's the story like? What did you expect to get from asking?
Hands. I was really frankly doing it for my wife. She asked me to do it. And it's a data point. It's not conclusive. It's not statistically significant. It's just interesting. Okay. Thank you. That's a good question. Last thing. We can talk more. I promise.
We're going to the pub after.
Okay, yeah, we are. Last thing. Please connect with me. This is a very hard problem. Culture is a really hard problem to solve. We have attempted it through a methodology we've created for culture ops. We've thought very deeply about it, but we need to improve it. We need to iterate on it. We need the design community. We need many different communities of practice to contribute to what culture ops will be. These lovely folks here are going to help with that in terms of Sydney. We're talking to other people globally. It's a difficult problem. Please help us. Please connect with us. And I hope as this ramps up, as we do shows, as we do roundtables, as we run our programs, and possibly even create a culture ops conference of some sort equal to this new community of practice, because this will be it for John and myself. Next 10 years, this is the final thing I think we'll be working on. I think this is hard enough. Would love you to get involved. Would really love you to get involved. And please continue to think about the moments that matter, and continue to think about the problems in the moments that matter and the opportunities. And let's see if this can help make a real difference and impact equal to what we want culture to really like. What we truly want a healthy culture to look and feel like at work, because we're not there yet. Thank you.
Thank you. So, the good news is, it's been very interactive, and it can continue to be interactive, because this is like part one. We go over the road to the Ocky, the old men's pub on the corner over there. As I usually say, it's not good, but it's close. That's where we go. And so the Q&A can happen there. But I want to say a huge thanks and get a massive round of applause again for Dan, all the way from Hong Kong, Susan, Kate, Jules has disappeared, and at least, hello, hiding. So, and do you want to do, here we go, here's the final product of the live slide as well. Thank you. Have you got your handle on here so people can follow? You need to sign your work. Where's the handle? It'll be in the show notes. That's the catch-all. So, thanks again for coming. That's been SydDT number 103, Design Connection number 2. Plenty more coming. You've got next week for EUX. You've got SydDT 10th of October. We hit the go forward button somewhere. Wow, there's more. That's the next SydDT, but the more important thing is we're going to the pub now. So that's where the Q&A is happening. So thanks for everyone coming, and thanks to Dan and the crew for speaking. It's been awesome. See you next month.